Yes.
All righty. Call the CIP meeting for December 2nd, 2020 to order at 6:33 p.m. First item on the agenda, or the second item, is election of officers. Don't all stand up at once, but I believe we have an opening for chairman.
I'll move to nominate Stuart Cobb as chair.
Second.
Anybody else want it? Going once, going twice? Hearing no other nominations, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Tag I'm it, I guess.
Stuart, we may need to do a roll call vote for things. As long as I screen share, you may not be able to see everybody. So the assumption is there.
Well, everybody give them the thumbs up thing.
We can't.
I can consider that a unanimous vote.
In the screen share, I'm just saying for the record, I don't know in the screen share we'll be able to see everybody.
Okay.
So that was all in favor, but
I think we'd have to do that if there was not a unanimous vote. Okay. Ready to move on. Item 3, status report. At our abbreviated schedule last year before COVID hit, there was quite a bit of movement by the Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen of changing some parts of the plan, buying some stuff earlier, I think, pushing some stuff out, and keeping in mind that CIP is an advisory committee only. They're certainly within their rights to do that. I don't know, Erica or Donna or Mike, do you want to go over what changed between our last meeting and what actually happened?
I don't mind going. So can you all see the plan on the screen?
Yes.
So what you were looking at in column Y, Z, and A and AB are the items for this current fiscal year. So from lines 3 to 26 were lease payments, bond payments, and most of those were already committed. I don't believe any of them were new this year. We didn't encumber anything that required a new lease payment. So we're seeing previous payments. And Donna could probably speak to whether or not they've actually been paid or depending on their time in the queue to be paid. It's been a bit, so if someone has a better memory than I don't recall if the capital reserve amount, which is line 27, what we put into capital reserve, 180,356. I believe that might have been a change from our original plan when we last met. Donna did a great job at noting things that we cut. And most of what was cut was simply because we did not know what COVID-19 would bring and what sort of financial constraints we'd be under, and whether we would be looking at funding cuts from the state at that time. So the chip seal to lower parking lot was cut, and Board of Finance added 3 items to this at their meeting that did not come from the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen. And one of them was the exterior trim, doors, and pillars to Hall School. Our superintendent is on the line. Bill, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe this is something that's been started yet.
Spring.
Spring, okay.
I think Phil is muted.
He said spring. I think he unmuted.
Okay, there you go. That's enough.
The Hall School boiler valves and pumps is something that was in the plan. It remained in the plan. Everything that was not a fire department item was designated out of 930, and that way we did not have the need for a town meeting for some of these projects. And the Board of Selectmen's mindset was that the projects were either of a safety measure or potential emergency situation. And so we cut other things out of that for those reasons. So the hall, school, library painting was cut. That was $8,000. I'm not sure this 100,000. It says 100K. Donna, do you know what that is? That was for the school building committee, correct?
That's if there was going to be a deposit for land.
For land, okay. Well, that's the next one. Deposit for land for new school. I'm not sure. The Old Town Hall septic, which was in the plan for year one, was cut for $45,000. In other breaking news,
Erica?
Yes, Mike.
Sorry to jump in just before we lose it on the page. I think line 68, that 100,000 might have been seed money for possibility of a consultant or some design people or other similar costs to get the committee discussions going.
That sounds about right, Mike. I believe that's the recollection I had. So that discussion will be coming back up again. Don't know where it will take, but we'll let the building committee take that. To the Old Town Hall septic was cut. You won't be seeing that come back again as we have been awarded a steep grant, and that's part of that project. What was still on the plan was $10,000 for a new boiler here in the town office building. You'll see that come up at Board of Selectmen meeting on Monday. The TOB concrete floor pour was also in year one. That was cut. You're going to see that come back. We definitely have a need for that currently. Right, Donna, these lines get a little jumbled here. We put off truck purchases. So there were a replacement of a plow truck, a replacement of a small dump truck, and a replacement of the Public Works Director vehicle. Those were taken off the list. And I can tell you from the dollar amounts that we've spent on repairs since we've made this change, you're going to see a big push for those in year one coming up. The $30,000 for Public Works to do some work towards the Village Hill Drainage Project was also cut. $48,000 for the engineering for the Liska Road culverts was cut. And the next two items for the senior center were added by the Board of Finance. $15,000 for a handicap bus replacement and $12,000 for senior center painting. And the last three items that remained on the list were $12,500 for the CPR device and defibrillator. And if you recall, they had been given a donation, correct me if I'm wrong, Stuart or
Yeah.
Alex, that covered half of the cost of this.
1/3.
1/3. So it's broken up over 2 years. And so the first was done. And then Willington #1 fire gear, replacing 5 sets for $19,000. And the replacement of the oil tank at Station 13 for $50,000. We pushed out the Willington Hill response vehicle and cut the pickleball court at River Road. Again, not because we didn't, at Board of Selectmen, because we didn't think any of these projects were necessary. It was simply because we did not know where we were going to be and thought it was in the best interest at the time. And I did not imagine we would still be in the thick of things so many months later.
When you talk about where we're going to be, is that referring to COVID-related expenses
That is correct.
or decrease in tax revenue?
Both. So we didn't know at the time what revenue would look like with taxes, with the number of people that were out of work, what direction the pandemic would take us. There were so many unknowns when we had to make these decisions that, while it looked like a drastic cut, and it was, we felt it was necessary because we didn't know. Would we not get new funding from the state? Would our taxpayers not be able to pay their portion of taxes? And I know that was a concern for most municipalities. We didn't see that. we didn't see that at all. We saw the majority of folks paying on time. And so our revenue for the first half of the year was right on target. But in the beginning stages of this pandemic, we couldn't begin to guess how that would look. So I can speak to the town project. I'm gonna scroll back up here. I think I said the new boiler in the TOB, that's on the agenda for Monday night's Board of Selectmen. So we're moving forward with replacing the boiler here. Luckily, it's still working. Hasn't been that cold, so it hasn't gotten much usage. The only other item, no, I have no other items. So the senior center, I do not believe has been meeting. So there has been no movement on their 2 items as of yet. There have been some discussion on their handicapped bus. I believe they sold their van. They sold one of the 2 vehicles to put that money towards a purchase of their new bus as well.
Erica,
Yes, Mike.
that brings up the question about approval processes, because the last discussion we had with Joe Piatek about that van was we weren't sure if we even had a legal forum. We didn't have an established legal forum for approving non-emergency expenses. And you were hoping in the future there would be more guidance through the governor's office or whatever.
So
How to handle that.
9:30 does not require a town meeting.
Oh, good point.
And that's the main reasoning why the few items that were left were able to be funded out of that fund. We have had 2 town meetings. We do have some guidance on how to hold a hybrid town meeting, although there's some holes in that guidance, and we're actually working on a plan so that we can attempt a hybrid town meeting at our next town meeting, at our next planned town meeting. So Donna, if you want to chime in here for the senior center for their purchasing, is it just a matter of the senior center executive board meeting and voting?
Because now would be a good time to paint that place there where it's not being used most of the time.
Is Donna still with us?
I'm not seeing her.
I see her name on here, but she's not on camera. So I don't know that she can answer that question. I know for the boiler, oh, there she is.
Yes, I think the seniors can get their 3 quotes and move forward with their projects.
So Mike, I know Joe hasn't reached out to me. If he has reached out to you, one of the 2 of us could respond to him.
No, I just looked back at our last emails about it right now while we were having this conversation, and in the July 1, 2020 emails, our last discussion was, and this is an email from Donna on July 1 at 10:04 a.m. where she says, the oddity is that the approval process for 930, which normally would be a referendum, was handled by Board of Finance. Nonetheless, the appropriation is approved and these projects are approved to go out to bid. Erica, would you please confirm this for Joe? He's looking for direction on the new used van and painting project. I don't know that I have a response to that particular email chain, but the way I searched, I may have missed it. This was the last, I believe, that I knew about it, was we had this little odd thing about how it was approved, because 930 normally would be approved by referendum, according to Donna. So I don't know if we know anything new since that.
We don't, and so because the governor's executive order allowed the budget processing in the way that it was, the Board of Finance took the place of a referendum. So at the beginning of the pandemic, and it's still in place, we have really had just only essential spending. Here, the senior center budget, certainly it falls under the selectmen's budget. It is a good time to get that done. I don't see us in the dire straits that we had imagined. And even in July 1, we were just beginning to collect our tax revenue. to see where we were at. So it might absolutely be an appropriate time while that building is closed for them to get 3 quotes, and then meet, and they could meet virtually.
So you're concurring with Donna's comments in that
Yes.
email, that it is approved and they should go forward.
They can go forward.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So those are the projects that I can update you on. I think we heard Phil say that the spring is when he's planning to work on the front of Hull School. And then the boiler, valves, and pumps. I feel like we've
Done.
talked about this a lot.
Those are done.
Those are done. Okay, so that's already been done. So that takes care of the projects that are not senior center related. We know they haven't spent. I believe the defibrillator device, we paid that first installment. Is that correct, Donna? You recall? Or
I
Stuart,
don't
you may be able
recall.
to tell us.
Yeah, so the CPR device and the new defib have been delivered. We paid 1/3. The total was about $37,000. So what you're seeing on these 2 years is 2/3 of the overall payment. And through fundraising efforts and donations and such, we were able to pay 1/3 of that, or $12,500. I believe the town paid $12,500 for year 1, and we'll have 1 payment next year to finish that off.
Okay, so the bunker gear, has that been?
That's going to be ordered this month. We just went through the list Tuesday night of who's getting what and extend that as far as we can. So that'll be done within a week or so, at least to get it ordered. Won't be delivered for probably 6 to 8 weeks after that. And the oil tank, we have lots of prices from a variety of vendors, and there's a lot of different people working on this. There's one that's putting the replacement burner into the furnace side of things. There's another one that's running the gas lines, another one that's providing the propane tanks, and so on and so on. So there's a bunch of vendors involved with that, and we're planning to do that in the spring.
So that funding is LoSiP funding, so that would require a town meeting.
Okay, so how do we do a town meeting?
So Donna, is there anything different with the fire department? They just go before the Board of Finance, correct?
Correct. Yes, correct.
So when you're, when you have all of your documents or ducks in a row, you go to the Board of Finance for appropriation, and they'll make a motion at that time to the Board of Selectmen to call a town meeting.
Okay, we'll get that together as soon as we can.
And then if you have some idea about when you'd like to have it done, obviously we like to put town meetings together when possible. And when does that have to come out of the ground?
Before July 1 of this coming year, which is I think about when we did the last one in terms of 20 years ago.
If the time frame of the annual town meeting works, then we could add it to that agenda, that town meeting.
Usually you want to wait till the end of heating season, so we're not in the middle of winter trying to do this.
Right. Well, I mean, that's April 20th, so that would at least get the town meeting portion done. So,
Mhm.
so that's where we are with projects, because we remember we did not complete the out years, and so this, for all intents and purposes, our CIP plan was a 1-year plan this year.
Erica, another question on the stuff you went over. You made mention of a couple of the, like the school building committee.
Yes.
Is there, do you have a forecast right now when that might start meeting?
It's going to be, the plan right now is for it to be on the agenda for Monday's Board of Selectmen. So there are 2 things that need to be done. We need to appoint folks to that committee and then give them a charge, and then the discussion will happen. Then those folks will get together and begin meeting. So if the Board of Selectmen can agree on the committee in a timely fashion, then then I would think at the beginning of the year, they could start meeting. Of course, that coincides with many other meetings around budget season.
Sure.
But
So just to recap, there was an earlier appointment that had to get scrubbed because of a technicality about wanting to be sure how it got approved. You guys went through a new process. You asked again for volunteers for the committee.
yes.
And I thought that those had been made into appointments already.
They had not. So that meeting had happened. And if you recall, we had a selectman who, for health reasons, wasn't at the table. And Liza and I felt it was important that there be another voice at the table. And then his first meeting back, Liza was ill and then COVID hit. So we put the discussion off, and certainly the superintendent who will sit on that committee as voted on, and the Board of Ed as a whole had their hands full wrapping around a new way of doing business in schools. So we're really just getting back to it, and we certainly have an obligation to the townspeople voted at town meeting to start that committee. So I would think, Mike, within 2 meetings of going through the people who had expressed interest, that we could have some appointments either within this Monday's meeting, the 2 meetings in December. That's my hope.
Okay, yeah, I was asking, I mean, partly because I was a potential appointee, but really so about this process and the budget process, because if that group is going to start their process and then want to have a discussion about some money, whether it's seed money or whatever it might be, obviously we're coming into the time where they need to have that chance to speak, or wait until next year's budget process.
Agree.
And then the same thing, I know this one's farther out in left field. Any ideas on the Emergency Services Efficiency Committee? They probably won't be looking for money, but that's been kind of dead since COVID.
It has been dead. And Peter, I know in the beginning we had talked about it and then put it off. Certainly there was some strain on our first responders in those days. So Peter is, you may notice him absent tonight. He has decided not to renew his appointment with CIP. Otherwise he'd be here, we could ask him, but we'll circle back to that. It's certainly an important conversation. But I know our first responders have had a lot.
Their hands full?
Their hands full. Yeah. So
Okay.
it will come back up around again. If you had asked me the beginning of March, if we still be talking about this now, I said no. I think I gave it a good, well, the end of spring break.
Could I ask, did we, on the town meeting for seating the building committee, did we also pass parts of that included setting aside money for their potential use? We did not. Okay.
There was the town meeting items revolved around the school building committee did not have dollars attached to them. We're not voting on spending money. So I will tell you that although it wasn't in our original year 1, and I don't know that I see it here, an old favorite working the window replacement at here, line 72. Oh, I stopped sharing. Both lines 72 and 73 make up the steep grant that we've been awarded. So we're waiting on the contracts from DEEP. And so they'll cover the cost of those. It was a very small dollar amount steep grant this go around. Typically they look at $500,000. It was a $128,205 was the maximum anyone could ask for. A very strange amount. So you won't be hearing us talking about reglazing those old windows anymore.
Two other new items that showed up on that spreadsheet were lines 24 and 26, which I don't believe were processed through CIP, but there was previous discussion. One was the looks like a bond being issued to do the new school, a addition to the firehouse, and some road improvements. And then on line 28 was the first time I've seen this in writing. I had heard about it before. Savings from the Board of Ed budget which I believe is the assumption of savings on payroll and overall expenses to the tune of 500,000 per year if a new school is built.
So that was part of the discussions when we were looking at the out years and trying to put forward the plan. So that's why you can see there's their dollars in the 5-year total, but they were out in year 4, and then the other items out in year 5. So those, I'm sure, may come up again in our discussions this year, depending on the requests that are put in.
The request letters did go out. Donna sent those out for the CIP requests for this coming year that are due by the end of the month. So it's up to each department to submit what they need and go from there. And if things have changed, you know.
I did, Heather, who is new in the selectman's office, she took Robin's position. She took some of that administrative work from Donna. So with Donna's blessing to send those items out, and we'll take, my office will take care of preparing the packages to get to each of you. It's a lot to be looking at on just a computer screen. Normally you're here and you get them in person. So my plan is still to make a packet for each of you so that you can have a paper packet to take notes on and such. So we'll work on when we get them together, getting you in here to pick them up. Unless anyone does not want a paper packet and would just like them digital, we can do that as well.
All right. Any other discussion on ongoing projects? Any questions? Going once, going twice? All right, moving right along, set the meeting schedule. Hopefully we're all sent the proposed meeting schedule.
Stuart, could I just make a point about that? If you scroll down, there's a meeting date for January 22nd. That's a mistake. If you look up in the calendar, it drops some dates. That should be the 20th. If you want it on Wednesday, the 22nd is a Friday night.
Okay, so is the calendar incorrect at the top? Or
If you look at it, it's really funky. It's missing the 16th and 17th, and then it corrects on the following week.
Oh, okay, that is odd, yes.
I'll take the blame for that. So I'll fix the January calendar.
I left a message
Thank
for
you.
him.
Good, I'm glad you picked that up. Scrolling some of the other dates here. So I know there's no day of the week that satisfies everybody. We try to dodge the other meeting nights between Board of Finance, Board of Ed, and Board of Selectmen and find some leftover days that'll suit us. We hope everybody can make it, and given our being short on the board a little bit by a couple members, it's important for everybody to attend the meetings. So at least at the very end, we have a quorum to vote on it, and all the other meetings are important, so you know about what we're voting on. Erica, you mentioned it. Is there one person to be added to the committee you know about?
So we've had one request to be appointed. And so that still leaves us with one vacancy.
Okay,
So anticipating a vote Monday's Board of Selectmen meeting. When we meet at our next meeting, we should have that one member, and hopefully by January 6th, we can have two and
Yeah.
have a full complement. And I'm not sure where our recording secretary is. Is she on the call? And I just don't see her. So we'll reach out to her again. I know she was copied in the email. So hopefully Catherine will still be with us.
Anybody have any problems with the schedule other than the corrections for the January numbering?
And some of the key dates are still TBD. The Board of Finance hasn't adopted their whole budget calendar. So those will be, we can adjust those on our end. They're just key dates for our information purposes. And I really went off last year, so
Yeah.
kind of a gap.
Board of Finance is typically a Thursday night, is that correct?
That is correct.
Erica, the dates that you have projected on your screen, are
Yeah.
those dates correct?
Well, I thought they were, Phil.
Thank you.
And I think just that January 22nd one is just off. That should be January 20th. And then that should get us in line, the 13th, the 20th, and 27th. And we may not need all of them, but I think it's best to plan. Knock on wood. We didn't have a lot of snow last year, so I don't think for a second it will happen again. I don't anticipate us, unless we get some new technology that will allow us to do a hybrid of this in-person meeting and a space large enough for everyone to be seen. I don't know that we can get 10 of us in a room together in a space that we have 6 feet apart. So I anticipate us doing this virtually, which will mean a lot of screen sharing. And we'll see. We'll take our first meeting as it goes and then plan from there.
Erica,
Yes, Mike.
if it becomes difficult to do it online, is this a public meeting where we have to have the, you're talking about the hybrid, so we have to have, the townspeople have to have access to it no matter how we do it?
Correct. If we can get into a room and then people have access to view the meeting, that's fine. We don't necessarily, I don't believe with our meetings, we have to allow any members of the public, as will be, it will depend on where we hold it.
Mhm.
How many people can be in 6 feet apart.
Right.
But what will have to happen is the public will have to have, to be able to see and hear everyone, and that will be, that's where it becomes problematic. We certainly don't
Right.
have that current technology.
Right.
So,
Okay. Yeah, because I think we can find the physical spaces, but that doesn't help with the public access.
that's right. You know, they can view a Zoom and they can see me or they can see you, but they wouldn't be able to see all of us. You know, or each of us sitting in front of our own laptop in that meeting. And how does that work? So we can, you know, work on ways. If anyone has any creative solutions, I am open to any and all.
Okay.
I
This is
believe last year we tried to leave an opening either at the beginning and or end of the meeting for, present to speak, to give, the few people that wanted to participate at least a few minutes to say what they wanted to bring up. And
Can I
are
make
there
a motion to
limitations on-
add? Can I make a motion to add present to speak on this agenda, or is this a regular meeting?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, there's a couple of people that aren't on the board that are here that may want to bring something up, and even though it's a Zoom meeting, we want to try to encourage people to
Right, so I'll move.
participate if they like.
I'll make a motion to add present to speak into the agenda.
Mike seconded that. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 What thumbs up? Opposed? Hearing,
That was everyone. Stephanie, her term expired, so that's the only reason you don't see her voting.
Yep.
All right, do that too.
let me go to item 5, just a part of that calendar. There's a schedule in there to when each of the departments are doing their presentation. As I recall, last year, the Board of Ed got left off of what date they were supposed to come. So we want to make sure everybody gets notified of when they have to show up.
I will say I took this based off of last year's, and those that submitted had submissions. If we get additional submissions, there may need to be some alterations on who presents on a given night. We didn't
Yeah.
hear from conservation last year, but we often do, so we can fit them in. And I tried to put them in an order so those smaller groups could see that they're up first, go first, and
And if any department heads need to change that night because representatives can't make it, let us know and we can shuffle the schedule around. All right. So we got your item 6, Erica, the present to speak. Anyone present to speak?
Yeah, but just back to like a point of order. So we needed 5 for a quorum, but Steph is not technically a member. What do we got here?
We have 5, Stuart, myself, Mike, you, and Christina.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks for
Anyone
looking out for me, Jeff.
Anyone else present to speak? All righty. Anything else to be brought up before our committee? Other than that, we will see you in January 6th, I believe, is the next meeting date. The request should be in by the end of the month, so imagine the town hall staff will forward those out ahead of time. We certainly like you to review them before the meeting instead of getting hit with the cold at the meeting.
The sooner people send them in, the sooner they can get copied and get to you. If we don't get them to the 30th, then it's going to be really hard for us to get them to you before Monday, that January 4th, which I don't suppose will give you a lot of time to review them. So the sooner we have them, the sooner we can get them out.
All righty.
I move to adjourn.
Oh, there you go. That's the favorite one. Mike
Second.
seconds that. All in favor to adjourn, say aye.
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 Opposed? Nobody ever says no. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and we'll